when I get a partner under me, just like that. From this point on, conflicts actually start to arise. There's really no reason for conflict, but it happens anyway. Why? It's because from this point, if you don't have a super dream, it happens again. That's why we tell you to dream of a super dream. Of course, your own rank goals are important, but we also say you should help your partner succeed. So you set rank goals for your partner. Now, as you go down the line of members, you get A and B. Then as you continue to sponsor to the left and right, you'll want to help your partner become a semi-sales master and beyond. But at this point, I told you to sponsor both sides, right? You sponsor both sides of A and both sides of B. But as you do this, here's what happens. So here I am right here in this very moment. Ready? And there are A and B. But while I was diligently sponsoring A and B, here I sponsored C. And I sponsored D, working hard on both sides. And working hard here with D as well. Huh? What's this? C and D become auto sales masters before A and B. So if I focus on C and D, what happens to the sales performance of A and B? Even if they were maintaining semi-sales status, they might not be able to reach it anymore, right? So now this is where the conflict starts. Huh? I have to help over here and I have to help over there. What am I supposed to do? This is what ends up happening. And then what happens next? You end up fighting with A and B. Now you do it. You take care of it. They say things like that. But the thing is, there's no need to have conflicts here. What I tell people to do is to keep going down under C and G. Why? Because the roots need to keep growing deeper. When the roots are deepest, what happens if you secure the area under CD? Both CD and AB will thrive. You get what I mean? But what do you think will happen if you keep spreading things out to AB? It would be great if A were someone who was proactive, but in this lecture, it always seems like the people who aren't proactive end up in that spot. It's really strange. Why does it always have to be like that? That's just fate. It means people are made to go through really tough trials. But when you overcome those, you become a bigger person. So you need to keep this simple. Let's say when I was managing this part, I maintained the semi-sales master status. But as I started focusing on the lower part, suddenly this person could only manage 300,000 points. So what happens then? It just drops off completely. So did A and B actually do the work or not? It's hard to say they did it, but also hard to say they didn't. It's just that they lack experience. From my perspective, I just think they're less obsessed than I am. But you can't really blame them for that. Why? Look at our theory. We've always said there's no sign-up fee, no monthly maintenance fee, constantly. But if you tell this person, you can't do it like that, that's where it contradicts the theory. So if you want them to realize it on their own, this person will also look at their own abilities, right? They probably think, I want to do it like that too, but just imagine how much they're struggling with it. This person must be frustrated too. They'll say, I want to do it too, but what am I supposed to do if it just doesn't work? So my advice is, don't say anything for now. Just leave them alone. Even just maintaining 300,000 points, that person is a business owner. It means they're using the product themselves and sharing it with others, right? Right? From what I've seen statistically, people who attend seminars usually go through one cycle every 2 weeks. They go from 300,000 points to 600,000 points. That's their individual capability. So for these people, I just think, I should see them as increasing their sponsorship bonuses. Why? Because we all need to aim for Diamond Master, right? But you have to create 2 sales masters on each side. And that's not easy. Maintaining that level means, so if you're doing a good job with even one and you keep maintaining it, you should be grateful. The increase in external sales then translates into higher sponsorship bonuses. And in the process, you keep discovering new potential one by one. If you do that, you won't have any cards left to play. There's no one to dislike. But when you start thinking, oh, I have to build up A and I have to build up B and C and D too, what happens then? You start to get annoyed. You start to resent A. So Imperial always told me, don't stake your life on your rank. Focus on increasing your sponsorship bonuses. So the 300,000 points I used to hit every day became 700,000 points, then 1.5 million points, and then 2.4 million points. As it kept increasing, my rank was naturally maintained. If you go about it this way, no one will fall apart. And there won't be any conflicts. And everyone will end up feeling grateful. You understand what I mean, right? But if I keep thinking in terms of rank, I start to resent my partner. Like, wow, they're really not working. That's how it ends up. But if you think about increasing your sponsorship bonus, then it doesn't matter what your rank is. Then you just feel so grateful. Think about it, everyone. It's not easy to hit 1.5 million points in a day. Try multiplying that by 3. Then that's 3 million won for 100. That's 3 million won in sales per day. That means you're making even more than 3 million won in sales a day. How do you sell 3 million won worth of products in a single day? So if you think about it, you really have so much to be thankful for. Even partners who only do 300,000 points. It's just a small difference, but it makes a huge impact on the growth of your organization. This is really important. The first step is extremely important. For example, as we do business, there might be times when the gap between us widens. Let's say I was close to A, but once an auto sales master appears below, things might start moving faster under them. So then, what happens? If we try to make everyone there succeed, that's just being greedy. That's why I tell you to choose and focus. So you need to quickly keep up with the side that's growing fast and keep catching up from below. Let's say there are auto sales masters being maintained at the very bottom on both sides. Then things will really start to grow underneath them. So what happens above that? The gap will only get wider, right? So if the gap widens, for example, thank you, A and B. Let's say the gap has really widened and then someone here suddenly produces an amazing on-pay. Let's say ㅡㅡㅡ appears. It would be such a waste, right? It's too hard for me to sponsor them. There are just too many. But if B and A try to do it, it won't work. They can't nurture them. In fact, if you put them here, it would just mess things up. It's better not to do it at all. What should you do in this situation? For me, I just give them advice. I can't provide phone consultations or sponsorship that would require my energy. If I had more time, I could do it. But realistically, sometimes I just can't. In those cases, just don't do it. If I try to do everything myself, that's just my own greed. So if something can't be done, it just can't be done. You have to know when to let go too. If that person manages to do it in their own way, then you can just guide them according to what fits their situation. They can also grow on their own within that environment. Why? I'm a case like that myself. It wasn't necessarily a growth point where a sponsor came down to help. It's not only those growth points that succeed everyone. As time goes by, just like there are incidents and accidents in a country, there are ups and downs in atomy as well. Someone could actually pass away or quit the business. And as you go along, a line could collapse. Then if you're lucky, your line could suddenly become a growth point. So there really is no single right answer to this. That's a rotten line. It's not even that. So just teach them about the 2 lines right there. Even if you feel a bit sorry inside, actually, that person might they could become a self-driven leader, someone capable of self-leadership and a truly outstanding talent. So sincerely show them the direction in which they can do things on their own. That's why I said earlier, there's no initial membership fee, no monthly maintenance fee, just the 2-leg structure, and teach them to sell to me. Start by teaching these things. It's not about having to sponsor them or anything like that. Just make it so that the person can do it on their own. Do you understand? And if I have a little extra, I can even give them some samples, right? In that way, I can still help out. But you know, from my experience, if there's some distance between us, as long as I keep communicating with them directly, even just by phone, they won't quit. But if I completely cut off all contact, then they might leave. So just do as much as you can, only within your limit. Don't expect too much and only do what you're actually able to do. That's really important, everyone. If you can't manage it but still try to help others, that's just being greedy and you'll end up exhausting yourself and eventually breaking down. Then who do you end up resenting? You end up resenting your partner. And when you start resenting your partner, you end up nagging them more. And do you know what happens then? That partner might end up leaving. On the contrary, instead of your support bonus increasing, it could actually decrease. So always be careful with your words, careful with your words, careful with your words. Got it? This is really important. This line is really set up wrong. Don't show your feelings about things like this, boss. But in cases like that, let's say someone has exactly 200,000 points accumulated and there's no one under them. Even then, you have to talk to them while praising them. Boss, you're really lucky. That person says this. Why? Why? Boss, do you know what 210,000 points means? What does it mean? Boss, you've never bought any products, have you? I ask them directly like this. I don't think I have. If that's the case, you just multiply this by 3 and that's your sale. 2 times 3 is 6. That means you've already purchased about 600,000 won worth in Korean currency. It's not easy, is it? And then they say, oh, yes, yes, yes. So boss, you're almost qualified to be an agent now. If you say that, that person is just grateful for that alone, you know. To make sure everything fits in the right place, I always ask for a floor plan to be drawn and have a meeting after reviewing it in advance whenever I do a consultation. That could also lead to a slip of the tongue. For example, there was a time when I made a mistake because we hadn't communicated beforehand. Suddenly we met and couldn't discuss the floor plan during the consultation. I should have looked at that person's plan. But let's say this person is the key man, this asterisk here. But this person already has 300,000 points. So I would explain the business based on this person. But there are a lot of members under this person. This person also has experience in networking. But then he brought in a beginner here, his own employee. But when I looked at this person's ID, it was a 0 PV account. Of all things, it's a 0 PV account. Earlier, I said that when I explain the business, I don't go into too much detail because people won't understand. So I just talk about unlimited levels and unlimited accumulation. To emphasize membership, I tell them not to focus on sales, but to increase the number of members. Because with unlimited levels and unlimited accumulation, it will keep growing. Beginners don't ask for details anyway. But since 100% is shared through unlimited levels, isn't it better to sign up 10 people rather than just 1? That's what I said. But then of all people, this person with 0 points suddenly looked at it and asked, but why isn't that accumulating? That's what happened. So in my mind, I was like, sizzle, sizzle. Oh no, I thought to myself, I'm doomed. Inside, I was thinking, damn, this is going wrong. Things are getting off track. And if I get caught up on this point, I might end up being the scapegoat. Then I'd have to explain it all over again. So what happens is accumulation only starts from 10,000 points. If that's the case, then it's not unlimited accumulation, is it? And then again, things start to go off track. Do you understand what I mean by this? So honestly, this really needs to be accurate, but no matter how experienced I am, if you connect people incorrectly, things go off track. So this is what I said. I explained it to you based on this person A's 300,000 points. And then I focused on selection and concentration. If you split up 10,000 points, no one ends up making money, so I didn't disperse them. They haven't been assigned to you yet, but don't worry. We had a meeting today, right? So as I was talking again, suddenly this person with 0 points says, oh, then I placed an order, but why didn't you do it under my ID? And then they're just staring at the person with 300,000 points. So what does that person say? I don't really know. That's what I heard. That's why I came to learn today too. So you see, this is why mid-level leaders really need to play this role well. This is the kind of role that the head office can teach you. People like us need to be clear about this. So this person has 0 points, right? So let's say you knew you were going to bring this person in. Then you would have at least filled up some points, even if it was just 0 points. So you want to show that the points accumulate, but it's still 0 points. That's why even with this kind of consultation, in a way, your personalities have to match. It's really important. Honestly, even I break out in a cold sweat when I'm out in the field with this. Honestly, if you're a beginner and make a mistake, the very bottom can end up doing well. This is where synergy happens. But since I have good coping skills, I explained it again. So this person was like, well, then I guess I should buy the product too. At first, they said they weren't interested. But after understanding, they said, well, I did at least put my spoon in a little. They changed this much. So that means they started to see things more positively. If you handle things like this well, it can turn into something positive, but these kinds of problems can also come up. So you need to make sure to explain things clearly and separately. You understand, right? And now everyone, those A and B, I think you shouldn't spread them out. maintaining auto sales masters on both sides? If someone is actually doing that, they're really obsessed with this. Why is that? Because it's not easy. So don't spread them out. You need to really dig deep under that person. When you dig down, there are people who keep poking around with several others. No. This is how I see it. What happens if you have a lot of children? You tell them to raise themselves, right? Eventually you say, you guys take care of yourselves. They end up growing up on their own. But if you only have 1 or 2 children, then what happens? You focus intensely and share everything well with them, especially if it's the first child, or if you only have 1. Then what do the parents do? They become completely absorbed. Their expectations are high. What I feel is that Atomy is the same way. Even if you're raising just 1, because you need to ensure proper duplication, you have to put all your effort into it. Just like you're raising your own child, put all your energy into raising it properly. Buy the book. If you do that, you create a leader out of that one, and that one person can play the role of 100 people. When I first started, I signed everyone up. Family with family, friends with friends. That's how you usually sign people up, right? But then people who wanted to do the business started to appear. So I focused on nurturing them. I poured all my energy into raising those people with utmost care. What do you think happened? Those people ended up duplicating exactly like I did. Then the people connected here will each work hard, right? So how does the number of people attending seminars with these leaders increase so rapidly? For a whole year, I attended seminars alone. No one else attended, but still, I went by myself. Why? What made me realize the importance of duplication was that when I went to Wonju, the average age there was 70. But I was full of energy, gradually. And as I kept talking, at first, since I was from Seoul, they bought my products and so on. But I told them I didn't need to sell anything. I just wanted them to introduce me to others. But since I had come all the way from far away for Atomy, they thought, we should buy something from her. She's just being polite, and ended up buying him or him from me. But as time went by the 3rd time I visited, those people said this to me. They said, oh, if only I were 10 years younger. If only I were 20 years younger. So I thought, it's hard to explain this, but Atomy already has a free system in place. I was being too forward. So I decided to talk less and focus on bringing more people in, increasing the number of people I could seat there. That's when I started to really focus. As I kept instilling that idea, what do you think happened? It gets duplicated, right? So even in New Zealand, everyone, this time, Diamond Master Lee Eugene managed to get 46 people to attend the seminar in just 1 day. That's a lot, isn't it? What happens when you nurture just 1 person this time? 46 were from her team. All because of 1 person, right? Just 1 person, Diamond Master Lee Hyojin, the influence of that 1 person is tremendous. The same for me. Because of me alone, 150 people attend the success seminar, which is held once a month, including New Zealand as well. So that means it's 100 people, right? The influence of just 1 person is enormous. That's why you have to nurture each and every one of these key people. Here, there are 14 people. They're all going to be connected, right? Here it's 10 people, here 7, here 12, 14, 6, 10. It keeps growing like that. So, you see, Atomy, it might seem like the line is long, but do you know what else is short? What do you think happens if these kinds of leaders collapse? The organization just disappears again within a year. So when people see the number of members suddenly increasing, they might think, oh, I don't really need that person. They're not that great. You handle it yourself. But as time goes by, they forget that it was actually that leader who made the group grow so much, and they get confused for a moment. They think, oh, it's doing well because of me. But that's not true. It's about your partners. 3 sides of the triangle worked well. So there needs to be gratitude toward each other. But the moment you start taking things for granted and get a swollen head, what happens then? People start leaving the organization. Why? Conflicts arise. So by humbly serving that 1 person well, really, they say to cherish the soul, right? If you nurture that 1 person well, I keep getting offers from other countries too. There's India, there's somewhere else, there's Brazil. But I had to do a reality check. Of course, having more is good, but I accepted that for now, I don't have enough resources to give my all to those places. So what should I do? I should focus on nurturing just New Zealand well so that it gradually spreads out from here. People who jump from here to there, then to another place, and then back here. There's no one who does things properly that way. That's what's important. Why? You have to go deeper by staying connected within that place. That's how your roots grow deep. If you think, oh, this place isn't great, so I'll switch to another, that's just spreading yourself thin. Even your country gets scattered. Some people say, I can't even recruit well in Korea. If you couldn't build something solid in your own home country, do you really think you can succeed abroad? That's just an empty dream. That's just confusing dreams with reality. So having dreams is good. Dreams are great, but you also have to accept reality. You have to climb up step by step in reality. There are no shortcuts or big leaps. That's why I worked so hard to dig deep in New Zealand. How? Not with a bunch of people, but by focusing on just one. Let's quickly create an auto sales master. Let's create an overflowing auto sales master by maintaining auto and then make an auto diamond master. And as I kept going deeper and deeper down the line, what happened? They understood. Who? My partner did. So what happens when my partner understands? We achieved teamwork. So what does that mean? That person's individual capability became incredibly strong. So what about me? Wow, now it really feels doable. What kind of world? Now I can even expand to other countries. Why? Since my color is just like that, what do I lack? It's English. English. The thing I regret the most is language. But even if I get along, we also hire more interpreters. But if the interpreters don't know the depth of atomy, the information won't be conveyed well. Then you are not growing the organization well. So in the end, someone in my business who can speak the language has to become my partner. That star disciple has to emerge. But in my case, that person did appear. So what happens when that person appeared? Since we become a complete team, even if they're in another country, we have a relationship where I can ask them to interpret for me. So what happens then? Because my style is reflected exactly as it is. What happens to the English? It gets reflected exactly as it is. And what is the verification? It's about how many people in the system are earning system income, how much system income that person is receiving, and how many people are attending the system. When you look at that data, you can see they're performing at the highest level right now. So what does that mean? Now I feel like I've made it, and I have the confidence that even if I go into another English-speaking country, I can give it a try. So what was I doing up until then? I was constantly sharpening my sword. What kind of sword? In order to have a breakthrough, my style is kind of like this. It feels like it's not working for everyone. It's not that it's not working. It's all about accumulating time. It's just that the accumulation isn't happening. And then suddenly, when it bursts, it just takes off like this. That's how I did Atomy. Kept at it like this, and then it just took off. But it's the same with distortion. When it comes to going global, it's better to grow steadily than to have some flashy success that collapses all at once. That means you have to put in the effort. There needs to be a strong sense of connection and commitment between everyone involved. If you keep doing that, everyone will succeed together. So instead of spreading myself thin across many countries, I focused on the country where I was doing well and concentrated my efforts there, making sure to build a strong foundation. From there, I tried to expand to places like Taiwan and India, letting it spread out naturally. But these days, I think there might be some overlap. Still, there isn't really a breakthrough yet. In the recent consultations, everyone kept asking, how is business being done in China right now? From my own experience, know-how is something you can't really teach or learn from someone else. So in the end, you just have to face things head on. When I think back, I also went through trial and error in Indonesia. And actually, there was a time when I was involved with New Zealand as well. Because this is my own know-how, even if someone tries to copy what I do, not just anyone can follow it. This is my own unique skill set. So in some countries like China, it's difficult because of things like cross-border e-commerce and point sponsorship. There are barriers to entry, but even so, China is still growing right now. That means they're developing something unique of their own. I feel frustrated too, and I'm curious as well. Honestly, I want to walk an easy path. I don't want to take on risks, but reality isn't that simple. Who would willingly share their know-how with me or my team when they're doing well? Right? So I think the only way is to face the challenges head on. Fortunately, there are now some people in China who are starting to talk about their business experiences. So we're also trying to give it a shot. In the end, I think the person who faces the challenges becomes the winner. People told me not to do it in New Zealand either. But in the end, I faced the challenge and made it happen. That's why people say I did well. So in the end, I pulled it off. There needs to be someone crazy enough to say, I'm going to do this, but people just keep hesitating like this. If you keep hesitating, you just can't beat the experience of those who actually jump in and get started. I still think someone even more passionate and crazier needs to come along, and I'm constantly sharpening my skills because I want to take on China too. I'm studying the language, but I still need to get my act together. You always show up. I'm sharpening my skills, I told you. I'm always sharpening my skill. I'm getting ready. I'm saying, come on out. But since no one comes out, there's nothing I can do, at least for now. But how do you always feel inside? And I'm sharpening my skills. You all should always dream according to your own circumstances. And while you pursue your super dream, you also need to steadily make progress in reality. And when it comes to just talking about things, in the end, it can't be replicated. Remember, only when you take action yourself can your partner replicate it exactly as you do.